If you want to play by Fernando Sor, the second study of Opus 6, which is in A major, you have to make some choices. And those choices are not really only personal, but they are directed by Sor himself. Let's talk about fingering for the right hand. The melody is obviously in the soprano. Now, there are several possibilities. Your personal choice, Sor's choice, and what I do. Let's talk about Sor first. Sor very clearly in his method describes that he never uses the ring finger if not in 4-part chords. So he probably would throughout play M, I, M, responded by I and P. And this throughout the piece. In his period, the rest stroke didn't already exist, at least it's not described. Probably somebody played it and never wrote about it. Who knows? Anyway, if you want to play with rest stroke, you're free to do so, but that's a technique that's from Tariga onwards. But anyway, that's very good possible in order to bring out clearly the main voice. There is a kind of mainstream fingering for the right hand, which says that the ring finger more or less serves the first string, the middle finger the second, the index finger the third, and the thumb or the rest. So the 3 bass strings. Playing this, you could change your fingering throughout the piece, beginning, for example, with A, I am. And in this point, it's possible to switch to M, I, P, and back again to A, I, M. Might seem confusing, but more experienced players probably do that without thinking too much about it. Now, what is my choice? My choice is to play everything in all the piece with the ring finger for the melody and the thumb and the index finger for the accompaniment voices. This is because I want to sing clearly the melody, and if I use throughout the same finger, in my case the A finger, which is quite distant from the other ones, I have the feeling that I can control very much the singing of the melody and the distinction between melody and accompaniment. So what I do is this. As to rest stroke, well, how I learned playing rest stroke was the first thing to do, so it's very much possible that I use rest stroke in some points of the piece, but normally I would not. Anyway, I try to sing very well the melody, and that's the next point and the next choice to do, how to play and how to understand the melody. Looking on the melody alone, we have that first 4 notes. What we have to point out is it's beginning with an Anacrusis, a pickup of 2 quarter notes and a 4 quarter time signature. Well, that's important, even if it doesn't seem to, because we don't have that sensation playing superficially. Could be very well the beginning of the downbeat instead of. But this is what Sor wrote. He wrote that the 3rd note in this motive is the downbeat, so that is where you have to aim to. And in this way, this short 4-note motive defines very well what our main key is, at least as far as the root is concerned, because we have the A, then G sharp, which automatically to us works as a leading note or guiding note going back to the A, followed by the E, which is a 4th downwards. And a 4th downwards creates immediately a feeling of root, of fundamental to the higher note of the 4th. So leading note and this. So what happens if I put the accent on the very first note? I get a different melody. For example, If we have it in an Anacrusis, we are near to another melody which is quite similar. And this is interesting because in this theme by Johann Sebastian Bach, it's the C minor fugue, wohltemperiertes Klavier. In this case, we have the first real downbeat on the F natural. But for the rest, the first 4 notes are just the same. What are the next following notes? They are just going around, so to say, the E. So these 4 notes actually don't have very much movement. We have a free leading note D sharp back to E, and that's it. But here the movement of the melody to some point is stuck because we come down to the E and stay here, just playing a bit around it. Okay? The melody then is going on with the next 4-quarter motive with a very strong 5th going upwards, followed. And this is quite interesting because those 8 notes practically have 2 similar motives, but the second one is just inverted respect to the first one. And this is a rhetorical figure called chiasmus. I don't know if you pronounce it in that way in English. Anyway, it's the... Well, there is a phrase in a poem that we could use in order to understand chiasmus. Let me have a look on this. Yes, here's my citation. Lord Byron in Don Juan, pleasure's a sin, and sometimes sin's a pleasure. Pleasure's a sin, and sometimes a sin is pleasure. And this is the very first line that we... Our standing still in E, and the pleasure and the sin. As we already talked about downbeats, we have to talk about resolutions of appoggiaturas and of approach notes as well. Here, for example, we have in the very last 2 notes of that first 4-bar unit, we have this appoggiatura, D, C sharp. Make sure that you have the right accent on the D, not only because it's a downbeat, but as it's a appoggiatura as well, we have to give an accent on the dissonant note. Next step would be, obviously, to watch what the other voices add. Looking on the bass alone in the first 8 notes, we have this. This line is only in seconds, so very singing-like, chant-like, and beginning on the root, it ends on the sensibile, on the guiding note, on the leading note, G sharp, and then it turns around this G sharp. These 4 notes are a bit unstable, but what is more interesting, after this more stable beginning, we have herein a chiasmus as well. Look, the first 4 notes end in A, G sharp, and begin in A, G sharp. And the other 2-note unit is A, B, and F sharp, G sharp. So a major second going up. If we see this, we have in the very first bar, very first 2 bars, a chiasmus, as we will see at the end of the same phrase. Now, you won't notice that too much because actually in the piece, those voices are following the main melody, and as the harmonic rhythm constrains us to play the accompaniment very short, that will probably not come out in first place very clearly. But anyway, it's in there. So if you know that, you can do something with it. And that's your choice of interpretation. By the way, this little melody is not too different from a abbellimento, an embellishment called gruppetto or turn in English. As we might have in Boccherini. There it's the other way around. It's very slow, so it's not really an embellishment, but anyway, that kind of ornament is in here. Back to the bass. The second half of that very first 4-bar phrase, the bass is going like this. Which in A major is quite a regular bass line, because we're coming from the 6th grade to the 4th grade, 5th grade, and a 5-1 jump. Now, the contralto, the alto, has its part too. Let's see. If we now watch bass and alto, we see that those two voices are going in parallel thirds. Those two lines parallel, and the melody, as we have seen in the first 4 notes, is free. But then, even the soprano is parallel to the rest. And as nice as this sounds, it sounds very modern and a bit odd really to me, because we don't have the sensation of a real stable fundamental under this line. This really comes quite dissonant. So, the first 4 notes are quite stable. Now, flying second inversions, and now the voices of the alto and the bass had that fundamental bass line, and the alto is quite firm on 4 times that A, so a pedal point, which gives stability too. And again in the last 2 notes we have the appoggiatura, a 2-1 in the contralto, together with a 4-3 in the soprano and a 5-1 in the bass. Quite stable, the cadence. So, our middle voices actually change quite a bit what the expression of the piece is. So you have to make your choices how you feel those things. I really feel a very stable melody in the soprano with an accompaniment in counter movement, and this one flying suspended for turning in a really stable situation. With the appoggiatura, which is a point where we actually could let ring the middle voice in the bass, in order to have that resolution. That's it. Now, that were only the first 4 bars. Well, the piece is short, it has 16, but the rest of the analysis, to my opinion, should be done in this way. And so you can actually make your choices. First step, check the melody. What does it say alone? Second step, check the bass. What is the kind of foundation to the music that he is giving? Then check the interaction of those two. And last, see what the contralto, the middle voice, actually adds to what you already have understood. That's a very interesting thing to do. And at least you can find your interpretation in this way, knowing perfectly what the music actually does. If you want more hints and more information, just subscribe to my newsletter. You can download from my Dropbox, as well as the fingering that I use. You could download the analysis in order to have more ideas on how you want to play it. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe and to like this video. See you next time. Bye.